They said she wasn't classy enough, that her roots didn't match the champagne glass in his hand, that her laughter was too loud, her accent too southern, her soul too real for the life he was building. So he dumped her, the black woman who stood by him through every sleepless night, every unpaid bill, every dream he couldn't yet afford, discarded because she didn't fit the image. He thought he'd traded struggle for sophistication. But years later, when she walked into that glittering Manhattan office, dressed in power, wrapped in grace, he froze, because the woman he once called not classy enough was now sitting beside his boss, wearing a diamond that carried more silence than any insult he'd ever thrown. Before we dive into this story of betrayal, reinvention, and poetic justice, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications, because what happens next will remind you that class isn't about money. It's about grace under fire. This is the story of Aaliyah Parker, a woman who built a man from the ground up, and the man who would later kneel in front of everything he lost. Stay with me, because the ending, it's the kind of twist that will make you believe in karma again. Before the titles, the suits, and the marble offices, there was just Aaliyah Parker, a young black woman from Atlanta, all heart and hustle. By day, she worked as a marketing assistant for a local radio station. By night, she waited tables at a small downtown diner, the same diner where she met Derek Coleman, a broke finance major with a smile full of ambition and pockets full of air. Their connection was instant. Not flashy, not forced, real. She liked that he dreamed big, but stayed humble. He liked that she believed in him before anyone else ever did. They'd sit in his old Honda after his shift, eating fries out of one box, whispering about the future. "How are we gonna get there?" he'd ask. "One step at a time," she'd laugh. And she meant it. When Derek's internship fell through, Aaliyah covered his rent. When his car broke down, she took the bus across town just to make sure he didn't miss class. When he doubted himself, she reminded him who he was. She was his backbone, his quiet strength. And when he finally graduated, it felt like their victory. They moved into a tiny apartment, creaky floors, leaky sink, second-hand everything. But it was filled with hope. Every morning before work, she'd iron his shirts and whisper, "Go make them see what I already see in you." At night, they'd plan their empire. He'd be on Wall Street. She'd run her own agency one day. It wasn't about money back then. It was about believing before the world believed. Derek promised her the world once. He said, "When I make it big, you'll never have to lift a finger again." She smiled. "I don't want your world, Derek. I want ours." But promises are easy to make when life is small. And as his world started growing, Aaliyah had no idea hers was about to be written out of it. Derek's big break came 2 years later, an offer from Harrington and Wells, one of New York's most elite investment firms. Aaliyah cried when he got the email. He laughed, lifted her off the ground, whispering, "Baby, we made it." They packed up everything they owned into a rented U-Haul. 2 people, 1 dream, chasing skyscrapers. New York didn't feel like home at first, but Aaliyah made it one. She found them a tiny apartment in Harlem, decorated it with thrifted art, cooked dinners after long shifts. She was proud of him, proud for them. But slowly things began to change. It started small, like how Derek stopped holding her hand in public when they went out with his co-workers, or how he'd correct her pronunciation of certain words, followed by a soft chuckle. "Babe, just trying to help. It's a different world up here." That world started swallowing him whole. Suddenly Friday nights turned into client dinners. Sundays became networking events, and Aaliyah, once his biggest cheerleader, became the girl who didn't quite fit in. At one of his firm's holiday parties, Aaliyah showed up in her best, a soft gold dress, hair natural, smile glowing. The other women looked polished, sleek, expensive. One of the partner's wives smiled at her and said, "Oh, you're Aaliyah, Derek's friend." Just one word, but it cut deep. Later that night, Derek whispered, "Next time maybe wear something a bit more formal. You know, for optics." She laughed it off, but inside, something cracked. Weeks turned into months. His phone was always on silent. his tone sharper, her laughter quieter. Derek started mentioning Madison Lee, the firm's marketing director. "She's teaching me how to blend in," he'd say. Aaliyah didn't realize he was already slipping away. Then came the day he walked into their apartment with a new suit, a new accent, and a new kind of distance. He looked around their small living room, the one she built with love, and sighed. "We're just different now, Aaliyah." And though he didn't say it yet, she could already feel it. He was preparing to trade love for image. The night it happened wasn't stormy or loud. It was painfully ordinary. Aaliyah had made his favorite dinner, baked salmon, garlic mash, and sweet tea. Derek walked in late, loosened his tie, barely looked at her. "How was work?" she asked softly. "Fine," he muttered. He sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone, half listening as she talked about her day. When she reached for his hand, he pulled away. Something inside her froze. After a long silence, Derek sighed, like someone forcing himself to do the right thing. "Aaliyah," he began, not looking up, "we need to talk." Those 4 words, always the start of an ending, he exhaled, rehearsed. "You know I care about you, right? You've been there for me since the beginning. But things are different now." Her voice trembled. "Different how?" He looked up finally, eyes distant. "I can't keep living 2 lives, one at home, one at work. My colleagues, my image. It's complicated. You just don't fit anymore." Her throat tightened. "Don't fit. I'm not saying it's your fault," he continued, "but the firm's culture, the people I'm around, they expect a certain kind of presence. And Madison—" He stopped himself. Aaliyah blinked, tears welling. "Madison, the woman from your firm?" He rubbed his temple. "She understands that world, Aaliyah. She's polished, refined, white," Aaliyah whispered. The silence that followed was heavy. He didn't deny it. He just said quietly, "It's not about race. It's about compatibility." She laughed, not out of humor but heartbreak. "Compatibility? Derek, I helped you become this man. I believed in you when you had nothing." "I know," he said softly. "And I'll always be grateful for that. But gratitude isn't love." That broke her. She sat there, motionless, while he packed a suitcase. No yelling, no fight. Just the sound of a zipper closing on 8 years of her life. When the door shut, the silence was unbearable. She stared at the dinner going cold on the table. 2 plates, 1 untouched. That night she didn't cry. Not yet. She just sat in the dark, whispering to herself, "He said I wasn't enough." But maybe he just couldn't handle enough. The weeks after Derek left were a blur. Days melted into nights, nights into silence. The apartment felt hollow. Every photo frame now a ghost of promises unkept. She'd sit on the couch in his old hoodie, watching the city lights blink outside like they were mocking her. Her friends tried to help. "You're better off," they said. "He'll regret it." But Aaliyah didn't feel better. She felt erased. One Saturday morning, her best friend Tasha burst through the door. No knocking, no warning. "What is this, Aaliyah?" she said, sweeping empty takeout boxes off the coffee table. "You're gonna sit here until you vanish?" "Girl, the man left." "You didn't," Aaliyah's voice cracked. "He said I wasn't enough." "That I didn't fit," Tasha crossed her arms. "The only thing you didn't fit was the tiny box he built to make himself feel big." "Get up!" something in Aaliyah snapped. Not in anger, in awakening. That day she showered, dressed, and stepped outside for the first time in weeks. The air felt different, heavy, but alive. She took a walk downtown, past glass towers and boutiques, until she saw a flyer on a cafe wall, "Women of Color in Business, Startup Accelerator Program." She almost walked past it. Then she stopped. Her heart whispered, "Why not you?" That night she applied. She didn't have a plan, only determination. Months passed, and the woman who once hid behind heartbreak became unstoppable. She learned branding, marketing, storytelling, all the skills she'd once helped Derek with. Soon, she launched her own agency, Parker and Colton, a digital firm built on authenticity and truth. Her clients weren't luxury brands. They were local businesses, single mums, dreamers. And her campaigns? They worked. Her message was simple. You don't have to fake perfect to be powerful. Word spread. One client turned into 10. 10 turned into 50. Aaliyah's small apartment transformed into an office, bright walls, bold energy, her name on the door. She didn't chase validation anymore. She built her own table and made space for others to sit. For the first time in years, when she looked in the mirror, she didn't see who Derek left. She saw who she'd finally found. Success brought Aaliyah peace, but not loneliness. For the first time, she didn't need anyone to make her feel whole. But the universe has a strange way of sending the right person once you've stopped searching. It happened at a business conference in Chicago, where she was invited to speak about authenticity and branding. She stood on stage, graceful, grounded, radiant. Her voice carried power, not bitterness. Afterward, as the audience applauded, one man didn't just clap, he listened. Ethan Bennett, CEO of Bennett Innovations, a tech firm known for integrity and innovation. He waited until the crowd thinned out, then walked up to her, his presence calm yet commanding. "Your words," he said, "cut through all the noise. You made a room full of executives go silent." "That's rare," Aaliyah smiled politely. "Guess people still value honesty." He grinned. "They do. Some just forget how powerful it sounds. That moment didn't spark fireworks, it planted a seed. Over the following months, Ethan and Aaliyah's paths kept crossing, at panels, fundraisers, and community projects. He admired her purpose more than her polish. She admired how he led with kindness, instead of ego. One evening, after a charity event, they found themselves walking along the Riverwalk. The city lights shimmered on the water. Ethan turned to her and said softly, "You know, when people meet me, they talk about what I own. But when I met you, I started thinking about what I value." Aaliyah looked at him, unsure what to say. So he continued, "You don't pretend. You don't chase. You are." That was the moment she realized. This wasn't a man trying to refine her. This was a man who saw her clearly. Their relationship grew quietly, built on mutual respect and laughter, not performance. He didn't parade her around. He invited her into his world as an equal. 6 months later, he proposed. No cameras, no grand stage, just a small balcony, a home-cooked meal, and two hearts finally aligned. When she hesitated, whispering, "My story isn't perfect, Ethan," he smiled. "That's exactly why it's beautiful." She said yes. And for the first time, love didn't feel like sacrifice. It felt like coming home. 2 years later, Aaliyah was no longer the woman who once cried over cold dinners and empty promises. She was Aaliyah Bennett now, founder, speaker, wife. And though she never chased closure, life had its own way of writing final chapters. That moment arrived on a bright Friday morning. Ethan's company was hosting its annual corporate gala, the one event where every executive partner and rising star gathered under one glittering roof. Aaliyah had attended every year since their marriage, but this time something felt different. As they walked into the ballroom, her in a deep emerald gown, him in a crisp black suit, the crowd parted almost instinctively. Whispers followed her like perfume. "Is that her? That's Mrs. Bennett." Derek Coleman stood by the champagne table, mid-conversation, until he saw her. The glass nearly slipped from his hand. It couldn't be. Aaliyah, his new promotion had brought him here, to Bennett Innovations, under the leadership of the same man now holding her hand. Ethan Bennett, his new boss. Their eyes met across the room, the past colliding with the present in one silent stare. Derek's polished confidence cracked. Ethan, unaware of the history, smiled and said, "Honey, there's someone I'd like you to meet. One of our new executives, Derek Coleman." Derek swallowed hard as they approached. "Mr. Coleman," Ethan said warmly, extending a hand. "Welcome to the team. Have you met my wife?" Aaliyah smiled, poised, calm, untouchable. "Hello, Derek. It's been a long time." For a moment he forgot how to breathe. You're Mrs. Bennett?" "That's right," Ethan said proudly. "My partner in life and in business." Derek's voice faltered. "I didn't realize," Aaliyah cut him off gently. "You weren't supposed to." Madison, now Derek's fiancée, joined them. Awkward smile, uncertain eyes. "Derek, aren't you going to introduce us?" He did stiffly. "This is Aaliyah, my ex." Madison blinked. "Oh." The silence that followed was heavy but polite. Aaliyah simply smiled. "It's nice to meet you, Madison." Congratulations on the engagement. Then she turned to Ethan. Sweetheart, shall we? As they walked away, Derek stood frozen, the image of the woman he dismissed now radiant beside the man who commanded his world. In that moment, no words were needed. He didn't lose her at that table years ago. He lost her the moment he chose appearances over authenticity. Now he was just another spectator at her victory. The night of the gala ended quietly. No grand exit, no applause. Just Aaliyah and Ethan driving home under the city lights. He reached for her hand, smiling softly. You handled that with more grace than I ever could, she smiled back. Grace was all I had left once the pain was gone. For the first time in years, Aaliyah didn't feel like she was running from anything. She was walking toward everything she'd built. 6 months later, she stood on another stage, this time as the keynote speaker for a women's empowerment conference. Behind her was a banner that read, "Rise on your own terms." She shared her story, not of heartbreak, but of rebirth. How losing someone who couldn't see her worth was the beginning of learning to see it herself. In the audience, women wiped tears, nodding, seeing themselves in her words. Because this wasn't just Aaliyah's story. It was every woman who'd been told she wasn't enough. Her company, Parker & Co., had grown beyond expectation. Her foundation now funded scholarships for young black women chasing business dreams. Women who, like her, refused to shrink for acceptance. When a journalist once asked, "What would you say to the man who left you?" she smiled. "Thank you. Because by walking away, you pushed me into the woman I was meant to become." Her voiceover closes. Class isn't about wealth or etiquette. It's how you carry your scars without letting them define you. And sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming so right within yourself. Their opinions stop mattering, fade out on her walking through her office, employees greeting her, laughter echoing, sunlight filling the room. A woman who lost everything that didn't serve her, only to find everything that did. So what did we learn from Aaliyah's journey? That sometimes life removes people who can't handle your growth, not to break you, but to clear space for what's meant for you. He left because he couldn't see her value. She rose because she finally saw it herself. If this story moved you, take a second, really think about it. How many times have you questioned your worth just because someone else couldn't see it? How many times have you dimmed your light to fit into someone else's comfort zone? Stop doing that. Because the truth is, you don't have to become someone else to be loved, respected, or successful. You just have to become more of who you already are. And if you've ever been told you're too much, too loud, or not classy enough, remember this. Grace isn't about silence. It's about walking away from what disrespects you and doing it with your head high. If you felt that, smash that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a E in the comments if you believe the best revenge is living well. And don't forget to subscribe, because more stories of strength, rebirth, and unapologetic self-worth are on the way. Until next time, stay real, stay grounded, and never apologize for shining.